There we go. All right.
All right, so real quick, I'm going to make an eyeball comp so that it's just a little more convincing and instructive, I suppose. Yeah, it's the wrong thing. Anyway. There we go. And then
So what did you do right there when you went to edit?
I accidentally hit the media encoder thing, but edit.
Okay.
I made an eyeball, and then I pre-comped it, and then I went inside to shrink the. I used this thing here to shrink the composition size, and then trim comp to work area, and I accidentally hit add to media encoder. That's why I went over to media encoder, but this is what I wanted to do so that I don't have this huge composition around the eyeball. And then on the eyeball, I want to just make a quick pupil. It'll just make more sense if we actually have an eyeball that looks like an eyeball. And also teach us some things that might be useful. So then I'm going to duplicate the eyeball again to make an eyelid real quick. And then, oh shoot, do I have to make, I think I have to create a new shape here. That's fine. So I'll just grab the pen tool. I'm just going to make a real quick eyelid. Color it something better. And then, where did my eyeball go? There it is. Why is it not showing? What the hell? I'm confused. Oh.
What's wrong? Are you trying to find the black eyeball?
Yeah, the pupil's not showing. It's right here in the middle. And that's fine. That's not showing. Why?
Do you have a duplicate?
No. The eyelid is... Oh, that's it. Thank you. Thank you. I forgot to delete the shape. That's what it was. Derp. Okie doke. It all makes sense. And I deleted the wrong shape. Is that what I did? Yep, I deleted the wrong shape. Derp. Here we go. God damn it. Alright, so we got an eyeball. And now we have two eyeballs. And then I'm going to make a mouth. And there's a couple ways to make, or a bunch of ways to make a mouth, but for these purposes, I'll keep it simple, but try to at least indicate what could be done if you wanted to be more complex about it. So that's a basic mouth shape. It's a path, and let's give it a darker color so it looks more like a mouth hole. And then what would be a good idea at some point is to pre-compose it, make it more complex. Again, cropping it down to only what you need can be really helpful for a lot of reasons. One main reason is if you use a warped mesh, then it'll only grab this much of, the mesh will only be this big instead of this big. So this is a good thing to keep in mind. Crop comp to region of interest. So I could put teeth in this comp. I could animate this path, and that's why I'm showing you why I made it into a comp or pre-comp. Like here, I could keyframe this, and then keyframe here. Let's do this. Close the mouth, and then make it frown or something silly like that. And you could, with more time, you could add a slider to go from frame to frame or mouth to mouth to mouth shape to mouth shape to animate it. But in a real quick way, what I did was I made a mouth that is animated or animatable, but it's also its own comp, which I should name mouth. And I like putting them in kind of logical order, so they're under the eyes. Okay, so far this is just flat, and you could animate stuff. You could try animating like the key position here, and then a key position here, and do all that jazz, right? But the better way to do it is to use a camera. So let's create a camera. Layer, new, camera. And the moment you make a camera, you could choose other cameras, but the default one is perfectly fine. The moment you make the camera, you can actually lock it because you're not using. Well, maybe I shouldn't lock it quite yet. You're not moving the camera. You're going to create another thing right after this. Make a null, and the null object becomes the camera control, and you whip the camera to the null object, or just change this thing to it. At which point you could lock the camera because it doesn't prevent.
And is that the null object?
Yeah, the red one.
Okay.
Is the null object, and I could even, if I'm using shy, this thing here, make shy the layers shy, I can hide the camera because I don't need to touch the camera. I need to touch the control.
So you basically parented the camera to
A null object.
Okay.
So.
And this is the null object.
This little red box.
Yeah, okay.
You can make it bigger or smaller. You don't even need to touch it. What's cool about null objects is you can grab it instead of something else. You can lock everything else and select that and then animate that.
Okay.
So the next most important, crucial step to this whole process of making a 3D or 3D-ish head is making the assets 3D planes. So you select them all if you want to, and then click on the little Q box to make them 3D planes. Then, at this point, what's really good to do is to change the active camera and go to maybe top or left, so you can see what's what. And the face shape, since I'm in this view, I can just go what looks like north, but I'm actually pushing it back.
Okay.
And then I can select the mouth and maybe leave that there, and the eyes are probably in the same place. I probably should add a nose. Let's go back to the regular active camera. And the active camera in this case, or the camera one, is the same thing. So it doesn't really matter which one you choose. But I'm just going to make a nose. So let's make a nose. And then position. So this too doesn't hurt to name it correctly and then make it a 3D object. So in the, again, the top view or whatever, I have the nose. I'm going to stick it out, and the eyes and the mouth can be where they were on the same plane. Or if you're trying to make a more realistic face or whatever, do that accordingly. So, okay, back to the active camera. So here's where, when you control and the controller has to be, the null object has to be 3D as well, a 3D plane. So that's a quick adjustment that I did, because before it just had the regular rotation. But now I've got all the axes and the orientation. The orientation is really helpful because you could actually just use that instead of the X, Y, or Z rotations. But it's up to you, whichever works more effectively for you. So here I'm going to rotate the Y-axis, and so there's a 3D head, and that's it. and if I wanted to make it look up, and so yeah, it's depending on the design, you can go pretty far or not that far, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if that's the limit, if you wanted to keep it within the organic looking skull shape, then that's as far as you go. But if it's more stylized, cartoony, whatever, then you can push
That's
it.
what.
But what was I going to do? I was going to turn it, and then so that's a head that is basically, you know, the mouth is animated. The eyes could be animated in a similar sense as a mouth. And a good way of animating something like this is to lock the main view that you have here with this padlock,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can click on the.
Sorry.
You can click on the comp that you want to edit. And in this case, I don't want that one. I want the mouth. There we go. And so when you move your timeline indicator, it updates both windows. So you could see where, oh, this mouth here, I want it to be open, or I want this to come down, or something like that. And I also want to speed it up, so I can move them in. So I can see what I'm doing in both views. And that's a really helpful feature. And then I think it's showing that one, but you could play this one just as easily. All right, so that's the head rotating and tilting and that sort of thing.
I'm gonna
Now-
stop right now.